When Zara first met Brian, it was like a dream. She was just a young girl working in a buka and taking care of her sick mother from the meager salary she was paid. Brian, on the other hand, was a big boy, rich, flashy, and loud about it. His father owned 3 petrol stations and his mother ran a boutique. They met at a party. Zara was just there to serve food and clean up afterwards. Brian saw her serving hot seafood and blinking sweat out of her eyes, and for some odd reason, he was intrigued. Their conversation began when he arrogantly asked, "Do you always look this serious? Or was it just the stress of your job?" Zara didn't laugh. She simply said, "I take my job seriously because it's my only source of income." He laughed for the both of them. Something about her calmness, her smart comebacks, and the way she didn't fall over herself trying to impress him drew him deeper. He started visiting the buka where she worked during weekends, bought food he barely ate, and left big tips. He chased her for 6 months before she finally gave in. Everybody called her lucky. "Zara, your destiny helper has located you." But deep down, she wasn't sure. He was nice, sometimes, but he also had a mouth that didn't know where to draw the line. One day, he asked casually, "Are you sure you're wearing switch at birth? Because I can't see any reason why someone like you should come from a poor background and be struggling at your age instead of being in school." Still, she loved him. Or maybe she loved the fact that she was dating a rich man. When he proposed, he did it at a fancy restaurant with a violinist playing in the background and waiters clapping like it was a movie scene. She said yes, even though she wasn't sure. Things shifted the day she took him home for the first time. They had to take a bike from the junction because her street was too narrow and waterlogged, and he wore white designer sneakers. "Jesus," he muttered, stepping through muddy water. "Zara, this is not a street now. This is a survival test." She smiled and said, "I am so sorry, but it's better now." When they got to her house, her mother came out and greeted him with a warm smile. "Welcome, my son. Ebele, please come inside." Brian hesitated. The room was small and hot. He sat awkwardly on the edge of an old chair. He started fanning himself in an embarrassing way, and Zara had to open the windows wider, apologizing for the inconvenience. As he left that day, he called and said, "Babe, I love you, but I can't lie. Your background is loud, and not in a good way." From then on, it began. Whenever she suggested something simple, he would say, "Can your poor-stricken parents afford that?" When she tried to correct him gently, he was cool. You of all people from poverty lane wants to educate me?" It became a line and a mantra. The way he would shake his head when she talked about her dreams of running a non-profit organization someday. "How will you fund it? Sell firewood? Or you want to write donation letter to your poor-stricken parents?" Sarah smiled politely the first few times, even tried to joke along, pretending his words didn't bruise her. But the wounds were growing, and the laughter was starting to sound like tears in disguise. She began to dread going out with him, especially when they met his friends, the rich boys with loud laughs and empty hearts. They would nudge him and say things like, "Omo, you really went to the trenches to find this babe." He would laugh like it was the funniest thing ever. And every time he laughed, something in Zara would coil up and die a little. Then came the night that broke her. They were at a dinner party hosted by Brian's uncle in a big house. Zara wore the only fancy dress she owned. She looked beautiful, but not expensive. Brian's auntie, sipping wine with long fingers, leaned in and asked with a patronizing smile, "So dear, what do your parents do?" Zara smiled politely and replied, "My mom used to sell fruits by the roadside before she fell ill. and she's my only parent. Oh, my dear, so sorry about that. So how did you and Brian meet? She asked again. Before Zara could answer, Brian caught in, loud and proud. She was serving food at a party. I was so hungry and touched. It hit her like a slap. She blinked hard and she didn't speak for the rest of the evening. As he was driving her home, she asked him quietly, "Do you really enjoy humiliating me? You are too sensitive. It's not that deep. Look, babe, your background is your background. I can't lie to people about it. Or do you want me to say you were born in Banana Island?" He replied. As she got home, she met her mother lying on the mattress on the floor, thin and pale, and her cough louder than usual. She simply sat beside her and broke down. "Mommy, I am tired." Her mother became worried. "Tired of what?" she asked. "Mommy, I am tired of pretending. I am tired of being insulted, and I'm also tired of being looked at like a charity project. Mommy, this is not love at all. Brian throws my background in my face every chance he gets. He also disrespects you. I don't know if I can keep doing this." Her mother coughed, sat up with effort, and placed a weak hand on her daughter's. "Zara, I understand everything you just said, but my dear, you are hope. This thing you are calling insults, I know it hurts, but we are used to pain. We have lived in it and we have bathed with it. At least this pain comes with light at the end of it. That man may not speak gently, but he is your ladder. If you leave him now, what are you coming back to, my daughter? Is it this leaking roof, my sickness, or your siblings that depend on you? My daughter, I wish I could tell you to follow your heart, but I can't. We need your strength now. Endure it for a while. Endure it for us and build something better. Then if you want to walk away, you'll be walking into comfort and into dignity. Don't walk away now empty-handed." Zara pondered on her mother's words, and right there, she made a decision. Not for love and not for Brian, but for her family. She will play it. She will play the role, smile when it hurts, nod when it stings, but she will never forget that one day she would rise. And when she does, nobody will ever ask her again, "Can your poor-stricken parents afford this?" So she swallowed her pain, put on a smiling face like foundation, and picked up where she left off, playing the obedient fiancé of the golden boy, Brian Okweze. Soon, the welding conversation started. Brian's mother, Madam High Class herself, began calling Zara dear in that condescending way rich women do when they want to sound supportive but are secretly judging your weekly and English grammar. "You know we are going to make this wedding tasteful, right?" she said one day over brunch. "No local music or plastic chairs, please." Zara just nodded. "Yes, ma," just to avoid further talks. Then came the meeting between both families. Brian had reluctantly agreed to go to Zara's family house for the traditional introduction, mainly because his father insisted it was necessary for the culture. The day came. Zara's mother swept and cleaned like her life depended on it. The neighbors helped out with plastic chairs and arranged them like a local council setup, and everyone was excited. But Brian, from the moment he stepped into the house, his face twisted like he was inhaling poverty. And it was as if the village people wanted to expose Zara's family the more. Rain came and the roof to the house leaked. Zara brought out buckets as usual, located the spots and put the buckets there. You can imagine the gravity of the embarrassment. After the introduction and payment of the dowry, Everyone assumed the wedding and the reception would happen in Zara's village as other brides had done. The women began gossiping and planning. But the next day, Brian sent word through his uncle and a family meeting was called. He sat like a CEO with his legs crossed. First of all, he said, I want to thank Zara's family for all they did during the introduction. But moving forward, we need to understand something. This wedding is not just a local celebration, it is a society event. My friends, business associates, and family members will be attending. That environment is not conducive. One of Zara's uncles tried to lighten the mood. But that's our tradition. The wine carrying and all rites usually happen in the bride's home. And I respect that. But respect doesn't mean I have to expose my guests to mosquito bites, overcrowding and smells. There is no route in the first place to that house. We'll be hosting the event in a hall in GRA. Everything will be paid for. Zara's family can attend as guests. I have already made arrangements, Brian said. Another uncle coughed. You mean we can't use our own compound for the reception? Respectfully, Brian replied, no, it is not fit for the kind of event we are planning. I have a standard to maintain. The word fit echoed in Zara's head, but she said nothing in the meeting. Later that night, she sat on her mother's mattress and whispered, Mommy, they have taken the wedding from us. Her mother, already too tired to sit up, looked at her with calm red eyes. Then take it back in your own way. Not with the event, but with what you will achieve. Zara closed her eyes. She was marrying into wealth, yes, but she was also walking into a world where every part of her background was seen as a stain. After the location issue was resolved, Brian took full control of the wedding plans. Everything had to be premium. Each time Zara offered a suggestion, he would wave it off. Please, let the professionals handle it. I don't want your local ideas messing things up. Sometimes he would add, Babe, your people were not used to this kind of crowd. Just come dress and smile. We will handle the rest. One day, while trying to explain why she wanted her late father's picture at the reception, Brian muttered, that man that died and left you people in poverty? Why should you be in my wedding photos? Zara quietly stood up, locked herself in the bathroom and cried. Yet, she stayed, because each time she remembered her mother's words, we have lived in pain all our lives. This one comes with a reward. She had no other option than to swallow her tears and keep on going. Her mother was growing weaker by the day, yet whispering prayers into the night. The day for their pre-wedding photo shoots came. Brian's family had hired a celebrity stylist and rented out a private estate for the shoots. Zara arrived wearing a beautiful Ankara gown, did her makeup, not too loud, just soft and elegant. But the moment Brian saw her, he frowned. What is this? He said, pointing at her gown. You look like someone's village school teacher. Zara's smile dropped. But I thought you said... Please, he interrupted, turning to the stylist. She needs something befitting. Take that off and let her wear the red gown. The red gown was beautiful but revealing. Zara had told him weeks ago she wasn't comfortable wearing something that showed so much cleavage. But that day she wore it. Not because she changed her mind, but because she was tired. Tired of explaining and also tired of being reminded that she doesn't belong to that class. Then came the in-laws. Brian's mother had barely caught Zara throughout the engagement, but now that the wedding was weeks away, she suddenly became interested in grooming her future daughter-in-law. I hope You know how to keep quiet when men are talking, she said one afternoon. Because Brian is not the kind of man you argue with. Your place is to support him, not to question him. I wasn't raised to argue, ma, but I was raised to think, Zara replied. That night, Zara opened her wedding journal, the one she started the day Brian proposed, and tore out all the pages she had filled with dreamy ideas and fairy tales fantasies. All that remained were her to-do list. She was no longer planning a wedding. She was now planning a survival. The day for the bridal shower came, but none of Zara's childhood friends could attend because they couldn't afford the attire Brian suggested. Only his friends came. They were dancing to music Zara didn't connect with and gossiping about designers she couldn't pronounce. She went into the restroom, looked at herself in the mirror and whispered, "This is not what I prayed for." Then she wiped her eyes, stood up straight and returned to the party. She laughed when they laughed, danced when they danced, because she knew her siblings were eating better now. Her mother's drugs were no longer borrowed and her family compound had new zinc roofing. She was suffering in silence, but she was changing their story. And for now, that was enough. The day of the wedding started with silence. Zara smiled, but inside she fought a silent battle. Her wedding gown was beautiful with Mrs. Okwezi stitched in gold at the back. Her makeup was perfect. Yet, when she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked ready, but not happy. The crowd at the venue was something else. Over 500 guests, most of whom she had never met. Powerful politicians, celebrities, CEOs. Everything was grand, no doubt, but Zara was so cold. The MC introduced her with fireworks, lifestyles, and a voice like a radio ad. Yet, something in her had cracked, especially because her family was humiliated. Her mother wore a wrapper that couldn't hide how thin she had become. She sat quietly at the far back. No special attention and no mother of the bride moments. As they got to the hotel after the party, she cried silently. She wasn't crying for herself. She was crying for the girl she used to be, the one who wanted love, the one who thought gold would make the pain disappear. But here she was, dressed in white, surrounded by wealth, yet completely alone, and it had only just begun. The honeymoon was in Satoroni, in a private villa with breakfast in bed and infinity pool overlooking the sea. The kind of trip guests save on Pinterest and dreamt about. But Zara barely took any pictures because from the first day they arrived, Brian made it clear that it was a celebration of his success and not theirs. "You know how many women want to be here," he said on the second night, sipping wine on the balcony. "You should be thanking your stars. This isn't something your mother's poverty could have ever given you." He said it like a compliment, like he expected her to smile and say thank you. Zara didn't say anything. Instead, she cried inside. When they got home, it got worse. The house was massive. 8 bedrooms, marble floors, a kitchen bigger than the compound she grew up with, but it felt empty. She tried to make it feel like home. Added curtains, potted plants, little touches that reminded her of where she came from. But as Brian noticed, he said, "This isn't your mother's kitchen. Please, don't start decorating it like a bush house." He pierced her again with his words. Then came the night she made ogbono soup. It was his favorite. She served it with hot pounded yam. He took just one bite and then asked, "What is this?" "Ogbono soup," Zara replied. "This is not ogbono now. This is whatever you people cook in poverty." Zara wanted to explain. "I made it the way—" "Zara," he interrupted, washing his hand. "Don't ever bring this kind of hungry man food to my table again. I know you are thanking God for this because in your life you have never seen the size of this goat's meat. Even Even your poor-stricken mother couldn't even afford crayfish. He laughed like he just made a joke. Zara looked down at her own food and suddenly lost her appetite. She stood up and walked away. "And where are you going?" he called after her, but she was too broken to answer. Every time she looked at her reflection, she didn't see a wife. She saw a beautiful prisoner living in gold but chained by silence. And she was fully ready this time to change the narrative. She had always been smart. People thought her beauty was her weapon, but they were wrong. Her real power had always been her mind. Even before the wedding, she had quietly started a degree in international relations online. She didn't brag about it, not even to Brian. She studied at night when everyone was asleep, and the day she graduated, she didn't throw a party. She just stood in the middle of the old room at her mother's place, holding the certificate with trembling fingers and whispered, "Mommy, we made it." Her mother cried for a full 5 minutes and embraced her. One night, a few months after graduation, Brian returned from a business dinner in a good mood and Zara took her chance. "There's an opening at that organization you partner with," she said casually, plating his dinner. "They need someone in policy strategy. I already applied." Brian looked at her like she had grown a second head. "You applied?" "Yes, and I used your name as a reference." He paused. He blinked and then he said, "Now what for you? You get liver sha?" The next day, she got the offer. Just like that, she stepped into an air-conditioned office surrounded by people who didn't care who her husband was or where she came from. The only thing they cared about was her ideas, her work ethic, and her voice. And within a few months, she bloomed. Suddenly, Brian noticed the difference. She left the house earlier than him. She wore heels that echoed confidence. She spoke less, but when she did, everyone listened. At meetings, his friends started saying things like, "Your wife made a solid point last week, bro. She's not just fine, she's smart." And for the first time, Brian looked at her with something close to respect, but he still had this moment. He would say things like, "Don't let this small drop enter your head though. You know if not for me, you wouldn't have gotten that role." Zara never argued. She didn't need to because she knew how hard she fought, how many nights she cried silently, and how she bore insult for the sake of her family. Her salary started small, but she saved religiously. She paid all her bills, enrolled her youngest sibling in a better school, sent groceries home every month, not because Brian couldn't afford them, but because she could. For the first time, she didn't feel like a visitor in her own life. One night, Brian walked into the living room and found her working late on her laptop. "Babe, what's all this?" he frowned. "I need you in the bedroom right now." Zara looked up calmly and then replied, "I'm finishing a grant proposal. It's due by midnight." "You and this your job safe," he said. "When will they even promote you?" She stared at him for a long time and then she smiled. "At the right time, my husband, the promotion will come." Zara's promotion came earlier than expected. Her organization landed a global partnership with the UN and her work on women's empowerment policies drew attention. She was flown to Abuja for a panel, sat beside ministers, quoted in newspapers and interviewed on Arise TV. Brian didn't clap. He scrolled past the TV when her face came up and muttered, "You have not even worked up to 2 years and you're already behaving like Michelle Obama." Zara smiled, not to spite him, but because she now understood that some men don't hate loud women, they simply fear quiet ones who grow without permission. One evening, she got invited to speak at a leadership summit in Kenya, fully paid, first-class tickets, 5-star hotel, and a chance to sit on a panel beside some of the continent's most powerful women. She brought the invite home, expecting indifference. Instead, Brian exploded. So, now you are traveling up and down, leaving your husband at home like a widower? Is that what your poor mother taught you? Zara calmly replied, my poor mother taught me to rise even when the man is senseless. He stared at her, and for the first time he became speechless. After she left for the summit, he started telling people, she's too ambitious now. She doesn't cook like before. She's forgetting her place. But the truth? Zara hadn't changed. She just stopped shrinking, and that made her too big for Brian's comfort. When she returned from Kenya, she found the house unusually cold. Her clothes had been moved to the guest room, but she didn't ask questions. She just walked into her room, unpacked her bags, and stood by the window watching the sun disappear over the estate gates. Her phone beamed. It was a message from her mother. Your light is getting brighter. Don't dim it, even if it blinds the one who once fed you. That was just the message she needed at that time. That night, she cooked for herself alone, ate and slept deeply. And for the first time in her marriage, she didn't dream of escaping. She dreamt of building. For years, Zara had watched her mother fade. One appointment after another, one scan after another, doctors talking like healing was luxury. But the day her salary crossed 6 figures, she walked into the best private hospital with her mother and said, treat her like she's the president's wife. And they did. Zara paid everything without blinking. And finally, after so many years of on and off battles, her mother stood up again. She was healed fully. Zara didn't stop there. She opened a full-scale provision shop for her mother in the heart of the community. Not just one half-done shop, but a proper shop with every corner fully loaded with goods. She installed solar inverter in case NEPA misbehaves. Sell everything, mommy, she said, handing over the keys. Sell poverty out of your life. Everything turned, and Brian's mouth began to close. Though sometimes he would say, don't forget who brought you to the spotlight, oh. When I met you, you were still in the dim lights. No exposure, no polish, just a fine face and a mother that couldn't afford anything. Zara replied, thank you, sir. You are so right. You threw a lot of stones at me. You insulted me and extended it to my family. You sold the garment of shame with your spoken words and your action, and you pulled it on me. I know I took you by surprise. I took the whole stone you threw at me to build a castle, and I watered every inch of the opportunity I got until it grew fruit. So thank you for bringing me to the spotlight. That night, he didn't talk again, but the silence was different. It wasn't cold, it was heavy with the truth. The next morning, he apologized. I am sorry, Zara, for all I said to you. I didn't mean to insult you and your family in any way. I forgive you, Brian, Zara replied. But understand this. Words are like broken glass. Even if you sweep them away, someone will still step on the pieces. Meaning that there are days and circumstances that will definitely remind me of what I went through in your hands. Years passed, and Zara's name grew louder. Not because she shouted it, but because of the silent work she did. She became the founder of a foundation that sent over 200 girls from poor homes to school. She started hosting annual Women in Leadership conferences. She even wrote a book titled Dim Light Still Burns. It became a bestseller. And her mother, now proudly known as Mama Zara International, would sit outside her shop and proudly tell anyone who cared to listen, my daughter did not just marry riches, she became one. And for Brian, he truly changed. He began to honor Zara publicly. He even sat in the front row of our events, clapping the loudest. He would say things like, she's my beauty and brain. I mean it now. But deep down, He knew that the words he spoke when she was at her lowest could never be unsaid. Hey, African Tales by Karma Tribe, how are you all doing? For me, I am doing just fine. Let me ask you, will you tolerate half of what Zara tolerated, all in the bid to rescue your family from poverty? Or will you rather work and work than to be humiliated? Let me read your answer in the comments, please. And just before I go, I would like to say this. To anyone who thinks their worth makes them better than others, please understand that money is a resource, not a reason for pride. Poverty you see today is something nobody wants. It is a condition and it can change with time, with the right help or simply grace. The person you mock today for wearing the same clothes might be the person you'll be needing tomorrow to sign your contracts. The boy whose family you shame might be the one saving your life on the hospital bed. And that poor-stricken mother you scoff at, she might raise a Zara. So if you are privileged, please be kind. And if you are powerful, please be gentle. Because the higher you are, the more dangerous it is to fall. And those you despise today might just be the hands to catch you tomorrow. With this, we have come to the end of today's story. Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not subscribed, and kindly share out to your loved ones. Until I bring another interesting story your way, it is a goodbye from here, and God bless you.